silver. Yeah, silver outperforms, and then platinum, and then gold. But as I tell my viewers, because they ask, should I sell silver to buy gold? And I say, if you want, but I try to just get rid of spare fiat to buy both. But I guess you could buy more silver now than gold, or you could go through the mining space as well to leverage. If you're into that kind of stuff, there's the silver miners as well. The economic monetary situation hasn't changed. We've seen M2 in the US make new all-time highs. So in my book, that's monetary inflation. It's going to continue. We've got the Fed meeting starting tomorrow and ending on Wednesday. Markets don't expect anything from the Fed, but you never know. The fact that Trump has done a deal with the EU and is postponed the tariff implementation for the Chinese tariffs for 90 months, that might make the Fed a bit more comfortable in cutting rates. The other thing, Denny, that I haven't really been looking at too much, and that's more the geopolitical aspect. And probably because here in the UK, they've censored a lot of stuff since the Ukraine war started. For example, we don't have access to RT anymore, RT news in Russia. But someone in Switzerland today told me that they have access there to RT. And apparently yesterday, President Putin or the Russians, they had to cancel a naval exhibition in St. Petersburg because of a threat of drone attacks, or there were drone attacks. Apparently they came from Ukraine, but apparently coming from the Ukraine would be really difficult to go all that distance to the Baltic, because St. Petersburg is in the Baltic. So this friend of mine thinks they're provoking Putin and that it's NATO. So I think that's really serious, and we're not hearing much about this, not even in the alternative media in the West. And why is that important? Well, because it could lead to some kind of confrontation between NATO and Russia, and that would be very serious. And you want to have gold and silver, especially in that situation. It's not why I have been stacking gold and silver, but it makes it even more necessary, I think.
In the UK, censorship is silencing coverage of key geopolitical events, especially since the Ukraine conflict erupted. Russian state media like RT has been blocked, leaving Western audiences in the dark. Meanwhile, a canceled Russian naval event in St. Petersburg due to suspected drone threats, allegedly from Ukraine, has raised suspicions of NATO provocation. If confirmed, this escalation could mark a dangerous turning point between NATO and Russia. Such scenarios heighten the importance of gold and silver as crisis hedges. In times of geopolitical uncertainty, physical assets become the last refuge of value beyond media spin or political rhetoric.
I can only speculate. Maybe it's got something to do with some of these files, and maybe it's the deep state. They're playing each other against each other. Trump is saying, yeah, I won't release this, and but then they say, well, if you do this and that, maybe the deep state is behind it, because it makes no sense that he's reversing everything. It's a little bit like the economic situation or the market situation just around April time, when the market started tanking. We would hear Besant or Trump saying, well, this is necessary. We've had a huge bubble. We can't just focus on the stock market. And then when it got really bad, the whole focus is now in the stock market. So yeah, I think he's got a lot of pressure from people behind the scenes, people who probably donated a lot to him. So he's like changing his tack. But yeah, I heard about that change in deadline as well from this guy in Switzerland. He told me about that too.
Mhm.
It's difficult to keep track of everything.
Conflicting actions from Trump, like tariff suspensions and sudden economic pivots, have fueled speculation about deep state influences. Could unseen players be pressuring the former president? Some believe he's been forced to abandon anti-bubble rhetoric in favor of stock market protection. Meanwhile, rate policy is weaponized. Markets dipped, Trump shifted, and the deep political entanglements of monetary policy surfaced. Now all eyes are on the coming tariff deadline. Any reversal or implementation could ripple through the global oil market, especially for countries like China and Iran. In this environment, gold isn't just a commodity, it's political insurance.
I don't think they care much for the price, even though it helps. And I don't think that's what they're trying to do, the Russians. But they do hold a lot of physical gold, not just like underground reserves, and the fact that Russia is one of the biggest gold producers in the world. And it's also a huge commodity country. Yeah, I think they hold it more as a strategic monetary asset that you can depend on times of uncertainty, especially after 2022, when their fiat reserves were frozen, and they're still frozen from my understanding. But gold is it's nobody's liability, and if you hold it at home, you can do anything you want. You can trade with any country. It's recognized the world over. And I haven't seen Trump or the Treasury talk about sanctioning gold. You can't really sanction gold. So, but I also, yeah, that deadline is serious, isn't it? Because it could backfire, because China would be impacted by that.
Mhm.
China, Iran, and other countries that buy oil from Russia. So yeah, it's all getting very uncertain, and that's the way the world is right now. And I think Greenspan, I have the book on my shelf back here. He wrote a book 11 years ago, The Age of Turbulence, and he kind of forecast this scenario. And I think we are in the age of turbulence. I guess, like you said earlier, it corresponds with the fourth tourney.
Russia, one of the world's top gold producers, is using gold as a core strategic reserve, especially after Western nations froze its fiat reserves in 2022. Unlike currencies, gold is borderless and sanction-proof. It's a form of money that doesn't rely on trust or intermediaries. As Russia shifts oil deals away from dollars and euros, gold becomes a backdoor for trade resilience. Unlike SWIFT or Treasury IOUs, bullion can't be frozen or defaulted on. This is reshaping global finance. Sanction-proof and globally accepted, gold's importance is rising not just as a hedge, but as a foundational pillar in a multipolar monetary world.
They gave a number that they would buy every month, and I didn't think it was that much. But they also were doing platinum as well. So it was silver and platinum, and so platinum is also running, doing well. And I think the reason they've done well, even though the amounts and the figures didn't seem huge, is because these markets are so leveraged in terms of paper that you just need a consistent physical buying from a fairly large counterparty, i.e. the Russian state, to affect the price. I think it just goes to show how leveraged it is. And David Jensen, I've had on my channel, he's spoken about how the LBMA is like the silver OTC promissory note spot contract is hundreds of times like leveraged.
Silver and platinum have outperformed expectations lately, not because of massive volume, but due to how leveraged the paper markets have become. A relatively small amount of physical buying by a large actor like a state can shift prices significantly. That's the fragility of paper-based markets like LBMA. Analysts like David Jensen describe the silver market as deeply over-leveraged, with hundreds of paper claims per physical ounce. As more nations buy physical metals, the pressure on derivatives-based price suppression builds. For individuals, diversifying into physical gold and silver or even mining stocks offers a defensive play against systemic financial manipulation.
Silver, silver outperforms, and then platinum, and then gold. But as I tell my viewers, because they ask, should I sell silver to buy gold? And I say, if you want, but I try to just get rid of spare fiat to buy both. But I guess you could buy more silver now than gold, or you could go through the mining space as well, to leverage. If you're into that kind of stuff, there's the silver miners as well. And so have mortgage rates. And I think Bessent and Trump mentioned that they want to see the mortgage market get kick-started, because what's happening is people who have long-term mortgages, they locked in during COVID at very low rates. They don't want to sell their homes because they would have to refinance at a much higher rate. So the real estate market is kind of moribund. And but like you said, they started cutting rates September last year. They cut by a total of 100. And the 10-year yield has gone from 3.6 to 4.4. So I think that's what the Fed is concerned about. They're concerned that if they cut too aggressively in the short end, you're gonna see the longer end rally quite a bit. It's gonna affect their balance sheet because they hold a lot of treasuries. They're already sitting on hundreds of billions of losses. And it would actually backfire for the Treasury. The cost of financing interest payments would rise. But I would think Bessent would understand that, having been on Wall Street as a hedge fund manager for so many years. I can understand why Trump doesn't understand that. He's not really a bond person. He's a real estate developer.
The U.S. housing market is frozen. Millions locked in low-rate mortgages from the COVID era aren't selling, stalling supply and demand. Trump and his allies want to reignite the housing sector, but aggressive rate cuts could backfire. The 10-year Treasury yield has already surged, putting pressure on the Fed's balance sheet, which holds vast bond losses. Rate cuts could also stoke inflation, just as tariffs raise input prices. While the Fed claims to target inflation, it's really grappling with political pressures, asset bubbles, and global price shocks. Gold and silver stand apart as honest money in a dishonest system.
So, yeah, I think that's why there is division. And it doesn't make sense either to cut rates right now. You showed that chart of M2 making all-time highs. That's just going to fuel the growth of M2. We've got the stock market near all-time highs. I mean, the Buffett indicator, market cap of all U.S. stocks to GDP is at all-time highs. I mean, do you really need to cut rates? It would, I mean, for us precious metals enthusiasts, that would be really, really good. And I think they might. Because the technical picture is pointing to continued move higher, I think, in silver and gold.
Is that why they stopped cutting rates? They cut it short at 100 because they did see the 10-year yield begin to spike?
Partly, I guess. I think they haven't told us that, maybe. I haven't really combed through all the minutes of the FOMC, but one of the major reasons is that the uncertainty surrounding the tariff program of President Trump, because it does raise prices, tariffs. It's not the foreigners that pay the tariffs. It's the importing company in the US, and they pass it on to the wholesaler, retailer, and the consumer. Yeah, so that's a kind of rising prices. and that could lead to higher prices elsewhere, and that's what the Fed is concerned about. They say they're concerned about inflation, but technically they're concerned about prices because it's the Fed that really creates the inflation. But so they can't create the inflation right now because yeah, the prices are going to be affected by the tariffs. But it hasn't been, these tariffs and the prices haven't been around that long. Need maybe at least 6 months to see what happens. So I think that's why the Fed's been waiting. Yeah, or some people could argue that they're being political, even though it was Trump who nominated Powell as the chairman of the Federal Reserve. So.